I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear
Oh, you
you.
can.
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear
Great.
you. Can you hear me?
I can
Can
hear
you hear?
you.
This is
I
my
can
new
hear you.
musical.
I can
This
hear
is
you.
my. This is the musical of the. This is the Zoom musical. It's called "Can You Hear Me? I Can Hear You. Can you hear me? I can hear you." Because we have hour-long meetings, and always the first 7 minutes is, "Hang on, I'm not getting you. What? What? Oh, you're gonna go out and
Exactly.
come.
You're on mute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can
I
you? I can't.
accidentally made them. What?
Hey, kia ora team. Today's episode is brought to you by Mr. Vintage. Mr. Vintage is New Zealand's most iconic t-shirt brand. Doesn't matter if it's a local pop cultural phenomenon, a sporting event, or even a New Zealand personality, there's every chance that Mr. Vintage has made a t-shirt for them and some product for it. Kiwi owned since 2004, selling Kiwiana t-shirts and gifts online. There's even a range of king sizes for us bigger fellas. Today, Mr. Vintage and us want to give you an extra special. How about 20% off any men's t-shirt? All you need to do is go to mrvintage.co.nz. In the checkout, use the promo code FUNNY, FUNNY, and you will get 20% off any men's t-shirt. Head to mrvintage.co.nz, enter the promo code FUNNY at checkout for 20% off any men's t-shirt. Hey, thanks for coming on board. And look, I got to say, to start off with, incredibly wise decision of yours to do this remotely. Like, we've been talking
Really?
about people. Yeah, oh, totally. I mean, like, I don't think there was any risk at all to come. But I mean, I still
Yeah.
think, because, okay, people don't know what's going on. So I'll explain. I've got a 16-year-old with COVID in the house at the moment, who at the moment is about 5 meters away from me up there on the other floor with about 4 doors between us. So she's not, there's
Poor
no
thing.
risk to be downstairs. But I'm like, I talked to my partner and she's like, oh, so good to hear some people still taking those decisions and taking it seriously, because so many people aren't. So, mate, I think you deciding not to come is a
Oh,
fucking really good idea. Good on you. Well
oh,
done,
that's
you.
good. I'm surprised here because so many people are wearing masks down here, which is amazing.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're
Nobody,
observing from
nobody wears masks at
Tamaki
home.
Makoto.
From Tamaki
Mm.
Makoto, where nobody wears masks anymore.
That's an interesting observation from you. I haven't been in Auckland since about October, and it felt about the same then, but maybe Auckland's shot off a bit more.
Oh,
I wonder if it's because, and I don't know this, I wonder if it's because we have so many potential hotspots with our student population that maybe
oh,
they've just
sure.
decided, to, I don't know. Yeah, but
Yeah.
when I see someone in I'm not really masking much at the moment. I got COVID for the first time in December. And so I'm
Ugh.
still kind of in that 3-month window. I don't know what I'll do in a
Yeah.
couple of months from now. But every time I see someone in a mask, I go, good on you. Proud of you. Well
Yeah, I do
done.
too. I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah, it's funny 'cause, like, looking out at, a show I was doing, like, a week ago, and there were people in the front row wearing masks, and I was like, "That's great, mate. Love
Yeah.
that for you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. In fact, I do it the other way as well. Like if I'm going to the supermarket now, and in this current climate, I'm choosing not to mask, and I don't know if I'll ever go back to it. We'll see. But if I see someone at a counter wearing a mask, like as in the checkout person, I'll go to that one, because I'm like, well, if you're looking
Yeah.
after yourself, then that means you're
You
kind of
look
looking after
after my
me too. So,
groceries.
yeah, and the groceries, and you'll treat them with kid gloves as they go through the
Exactly.
doot, doot, that thing.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
really excited to chat to you because we tried to do this last year, and I can't even remember what happened, but something happened, and then something happened, and
I
then
can't
something
either.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, busy life got in
Life.
the way. But the
Life got in the
exciting thing
way.
was that was for my other podcast, and since then I've started up this
Right.
podcast about talking to comedians, and here you are. So it's very cool.
I feel very honoured because you've had some pretty
Oh.
good guests so far.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a good start, actually. We've been really enjoying what we're doing, and hopefully, there's enough comedians around New Zealand and the world, just putting that out to the universe, that anything could happen with any time. And also, talking to comedians about comedy, there's nothing to say that I can't speak to a Paul Ego or a Mouse Chalet Court next year as well, because there's new stuff going on in the world and new stuff going on in their lives and new tours, and So yeah, so maybe I'll just find my
Exactly.
52 favorite comedians and talk to them every year. We'll slot you. It's like
Great idea.
like timeshare. This is like timeshare,
Yeah.
and this is your week from now on. So put it in your diary. Get Google out. What
Love
is it?
that.
Outlook out.
Right.
Yeah, and do every 12 months. This is the appointment.
For
Yeah,
the
no, it's
rest
cool.
of
It's cool
time.
for the rest of time. It's cool to have you on
Yeah.
board. And tell me about Dunedin. You're here doing the Fringe at the moment. Have you enjoyed your
I am
stay?
doing Fringe. Yeah, so we opened last night. I'm doing half an hour with Justine Smith,
Yep.
National Treasure. And yeah, we're just kind of trying some new stuff before festival, but also just like I love performing at this Fringe because it's just such a good time and get great audiences, and it's like the start of the comedy year for me in a way
Right.
because everything
Right.
kind of happens after Fringe. So
Right.
yeah, it's been real fun so far.
How old do you have to be before you get called a national treasure? Because I would assume that someone who is 21 and the young, hot comedian and the one that's shocking all of New Zealand wouldn't be called a national treasure. They might be called
No,
something
probably
else. So,
not.
so national treasure. I'm not trying to say this in a disrespectful way to Justine, because we're the same age, I think. But what point do you have to get to before that title actually kicks in?
Yeah, I guess yeah, it's like a generational thing, I suppose. Once you get to the kind of you're the auntie of comedy with Michelle A.
Nice,
Court, I guess
nice.
like yeah,
That's official, is it? That's the title.
yeah,
I know
official.
Michelle talks since she got her King's birthday honors. She talks about needing a
King's
tiara, so
birthday
that kind of fits in with the auntie thing as well. I was interested in looking at your
exactly.
gig in Dunedin that you are doing like a two-hander. You're doing it with Justine, half an hour each though, not on at the same time. Why are you doing it
No,
as like a two-person one show? What was the decision behind that?
yeah, it's just to try out new stuff, and it's much easier to have. I like gigging with someone else, So, but also she'll help me sell tickets probably. So,
Right.
um, yeah, I don't know. David Correas is doing a whole hour, and it's good to have a deadline, so you're doing Fringe. You're like, I have to write an hour before Fringe, but yeah, I'm just a bit lazy, I guess.
I like seeing how people communicate and how different they are. You just mentioned David Crayas. I sent him the same message I sent you this morning, right? Which was for what we just talked about. Just so you know, COVID in the house, it's not near the studio, but you need to know so you can make your own decision. You were quite,
Mm.
I'm going on holiday. I don't want to get it, so I'm going to be careful. He just put a love heart on the message. I don't know what the fuck that means. He loved the message. So I still don't know whether David's coming to the studio tomorrow. He put a love heart on the message that said there's a 16-year-old with COVID, and then he put a love
COVID.
heart on the
So
message. Well, I talked about that. I was doing one with you today on Zoom, and he put a love heart on that too. So I'm not entirely sure what David was communicating back to me, but it is interesting the different style in communication between you and him.
your guess is as good as mine.
He's a madman, eh? It's not to this is to talk about you, but I just saw Robbie Nicol put up a tweet just today, I think, talking about David Crash should be on every New Zealand television show, and it showed like a 30-second clip of him just going mad on stage. I think on the Spelling Bee show.
On Spelling Bee?
Yeah.
Wow, let's go.
That's what so Justine and I are Airbnb-ing with him here.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and I like David and I, we're like comedy wife and husband. We gig together quite a lot and quite often do like two-handers together. And so I said to Justine, I was like, are you sure you wanna stay with David while we're down here? And she was like, yeah, it'd be great. And I was like, okay. So, like, I know what he's like, but he's calmed down a lot, to be fair.
It seems like he's the kind of guy that, those toys you'd pull the string on the back and they'd go for a while. He seems to be, you pull the string on the back, but it's like an everlasting string. It never kind of runs out. That's the vibe I get from him and so what he does on stage and that.
He's how did Juzzy describe him yesterday? Joyful. There's something about him on stage. He's just so joyful and having so much fun. It's infectious.
Yeah.
I said last night, I'm going to try and bring some David Correas joy to my show. That's great.
Hey, the gig that you're doing, And you said this is the start. Like, it's interesting to see how the comedy circuit works. People do Dunedin, and then they go back and they do the international, then they go off and do Melbourne and that sort of thing. Is that the path for you? Is that where you are in your kind of comedy career at the moment? Are you doing the international festival? Is this the same show, or is this a bit of a warm up and there's a different show coming through the year?
Yeah, great question. Usually we'd kind of go Wellington Fringe, Dunedin Fringe, Auckland Fringe, Auckland Comedy Fest, but Auckland Fringe has moved to like September or something weird, and Wellington Fringe, I didn't want to burn through my Wellington audience before festival, so we skipped Fringe there this year. But quite often, I think a lot of comedians use Dunedin Fringe to, like, you know, do some old stuff, do some new stuff, like just get back in the game, I guess. So yeah, I've been to Melbourne Comedy Fest a few times, which is before New Zealand, but it's quite expensive, and so I'm doing Comedy Fest here, Auckland, Wellington, and then we'll see. Going to Sydney in June to do Comedy Store, which will be real fun, and
Is the international performance for a comedian just sort of, as it sounds, that you got to kind of fund yourself getting there, and then you got to sell enough tickets to pay for it? Or is that pretty much, I mean, like, for example, headline, I'm sure James Acaster's not paying his way over here to do Auckland, because he's a massive worldwide name. But for the general comedian, is that fun? You got to pretty much fund it yourself and hope you get the back end on ticket sales? Yeah,
man, that's exactly it. And when you're going to a different country where nobody knows you and you've got to sell tickets, it can be pretty hard and pretty demoralizing.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. There's nothing like walking down a street and seeing your flyer on the ground with someone's footprint on it. You know what I mean? Trying to sell tickets.
It's a metaphor for life, isn't it? My
sure
life, my flyers on the ground. Is that? And what festivals have you done around the world? You've obviously done Melbourne. Have you done anything further afield? Have you managed to get to Edinburgh yet? Is that still on the kind of bucket list?
Sort of. So I feel like I've been pretty lucky with Melbourne, because I am part of an improv troupe called Snort, and we've been going to Melbourne since 2014, I think. And it was just an amazing thing to be able to do by taking this group of comedians over there, and it would kind of subsidize if we wanted to do our own show. You know, we're kind of already going, and you've got a support network there already. You're getting international guests to come on and do monologues for the improv show, so you're meeting all these cool comedians and stuff. But Snort's not going to Melbourne this year, but it is still quite hard on your own, because you still got to get yourself over there. There's the registration, there's the accommodation. Like, I remember people saying they've lost like tens of thousands of dollars going to Edinburgh and stuff. And I was like, I'm too old to lose that much money. I couldn't even raise that much money anyway.
Yeah, it's a hard road. I mean, for you, what does that mean for you? Like I always ask this question through, and normally it's further down after we've chatted for 20 minutes or so. But so who are you at your core? Like, who is Donna Brookbanks at her core when it comes to performing? Like, Michelle Acorn did it perfectly the other day. She went, well, when I go into a new country, what I write on the entry card is for my occupation. It's like, who are you? Are you a stand-up comedian? Are you a presenter? Are you a performer? Is there another career outside of entertainment that you'd kind of consider yourself at your core to be?
Interesting. I was talking about this with my mum the other day. That's quite funny, because I was like, oh, it was for the census, I think. And you had to put what you And I was like, oh God. And entertainer was there. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable putting entertainer, because I feel like either you're a stripper or you're a child's birthday party entertainer.
Or you're Billy T. James. or you're a comedian from the 70s or 80s who sung and danced as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think I would probably put actor.
Okay.
TVH. Yeah. I trained as an actor, and that's like kind of my first love, I suppose.
So when you say first love, I kind of try and nutshell that. So I went, if you could be at the pinnacle of whatever career you wanted to be, would it be winning an Oscar? versus whatever the Jim Carrey of our time? You know, would that be how we could measure it if you were to be at the absolute pinnacle of what you wanted to be?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love comedy acting as opposed to like in characters and all that sort of stuff, as opposed to more than I love doing stand up and drama acting. So yeah, if I was the Jim Carrey of our time, that would be freaking fun.
That's kind of both fields, isn't it? Because he was, I guess, who would be is there a unanimous world's greatest stand-up comedian at the moment? I mean, people talk about people in the past like Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy being it, but over right now, a lot of people talk about Dave Chappelle, but he's got quite controversial in some of his subject matter, but for the skill of. But, yeah, I guess Jim Carrey is the guy, isn't it? He's the one that's done the stand-up comedy, been incredibly successful there, and then moved into and then actually moved into comedy movies, and then moved into Oscar award-winning movies. So yeah, he's a fascinating cat.
Just
and now he's moved into being a guru with that beard that he's got and stuff.
Oh, I know, right? I know. I loved him in Man on the Moon. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
The one about Andy Kaufman. Yeah. Yep. I thought he was just amazing. But then you hear all those stories about him being like not being able to get out of, like, going really method on it and being Andy Kaufman all the time, to the point that everyone was like, I just want to punch him in the face.
If you haven't seen it, there's a documentary on Netflix called Andy and Me. And the documentary, it's about him staying in character. And what they did 25 years ago was Jim Carrey had his own film crew, and the documentary filmmaker was Andy Kaufman's girlfriend before he died, and she's now a documentary filmmaker. And so they documented Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman, and in that documentary, Jim talks about not being method. This is going to sound a bit wanky, but he feels like Andy actually came into his body. He was like, it was more than that. He tells this story about meeting Andy Kaufman's daughter that Andy Kaufman had never met. And he comes out of it saying that you don't see any of it on video. He goes, his daughter got to spend an hour with Andy Kaufman, not an hour with Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman, an hour with Andy Kaufman. It's one of those documentaries that I go, if you like watching things about the creative process, like I like Back and Forth by the Foo Fighters documentary. I like 6 Days to Air, the South Park documentary, and this is one of those ones. If you like to watch the creative process, it's an absolute must see. So there's my recommendation for today. I need some cheesy sound effect. Bring Pat's recommendation for the day is Andy and Me on Netflix. It's really good. Really, really good. You're also, though, a wedding celebrant. I noticed that a friend of mine, Penny Ashton, does that as well. Is that something you love and you want to do, or is that kind of to pay the bills and because you're good in front of audiences, it's a good fit?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, to be honest. I love and I love weddings, and so I was. That sounds wanky too, doesn't it? I was playing a wedding celebrant on Shorty. And I was like, actually, this would be another good way to make a little bit of money, because, you have to have all these different odd jobs to kind of get you through. And so I did it. I went through the process and did it. I think I've done about 11 weddings now. Yeah, I love it so much. It's so much fun. Each wedding is so different from the next one. And it's such a little insight into the couple, that day.
Do you do you put your humor and stuff into it, or do you take it quite seriously?
I try to read the room. Like, I can tell with some couples, they want fun and like relaxed and stuff. But I've done a wedding as well where they took it really seriously, and it was like got to be the perfect day. And I was like, oh my God, the stress. But I just knew that wasn't going to be the, one that want like jokes and lighthearted. Yeah, exactly. Ta-da! Pull the wedding rings out of a hat, sort of thing.
When I got married, way back when, we got married by a minister from a church. So like the proper kind of that sort of dude. And he said to me, he's great. He's great fun. He was lighthearted. It was good. But he goes, yeah, this is the second level of things I take seriously. Funeral, most serious. Wedding, second most serious. But he wasn't meaning serious as in I'm going to be stern. He means the responsibility for this. It goes funeral at the top and then wedding. So I was thinking, it's interesting.
I can imagine that,
because many people will say, you know, best day of my life, greatest day of my life. And so it's an important part to play, eh?
It really is, man. And, you know, it means a lot to the couple. You know, they've generally spent way too much money on a day, and they, you know, but also I try to remind them that it's not going to go perfectly. Like, and that's the beauty of it as well, you know, is the little things that happen that make it original and make it such a special day, I suppose.
Everyone's got some like one good piece of advice about various things. I've got one good piece of advice about weddings, which I'll give out now because I'm sure people are on bated breath waiting for it. But as a celebrant, obviously you have lots of conversations with couples. What have you learned? What's a piece of advice for other people getting married that will help them?
Oh, enjoy every moment, like because the day goes so fast. And all of a sudden, like, there's so much going on. Like, everyone wants to talk to you. Everyone wants to, like, hug you and stuff. Just try and, like, every single moment, just be like, okay, I'm in this moment, you know, be in the day, because it happens so, so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, cool. My one piece of advice to people always, and it sounds a little bit like a theatre brat, but have a stage manager. Like, have a stage manager, have
Amen.
someone who knows everything, and then the 10 times during your wedding day when someone comes to you and goes, oh, just like the drinks are coming out, you go see that person. They're the stage manager. So have a stage manager, have them across the whole thing. They don't have to do anything in particular, but they know everything. They've got all the details. They know it, and you can just send the person to the stage manager. Now that might be a best man or a maid of honor or something
MC,
as well,
maybe.
but something. Have a stage manager who can make all of those decisions when you are all loved up and probably half pissed. Probably at the same time.
Exactly.
Hey, how much of your comedy comes from your real life? How much of what you do on stage is like true things that you are and have experienced? How much is just I've thought of a good idea?
It's probably, it used to be fully my life. I think now I'm starting to bring in more like kind of observations, and wouldn't it be funny if kind of this idea, but a lot of it comes from my real life. Silly things that have happened to me, or silly things that I've seen, or I love watching people. So it sounds creepy, doesn't it?
No, not to me.
No. Okay, great, awesome. Things I've done that I've gone, oh, like I'm pretty self-deprecating.
You're very, very funny. I mean, like, I really enjoy watching you on stage. The most important thing I want to know about today's conversation is, does the boyfriend still fancy Emily?
We broke up.
That's did it have anything to do with Emily?
No, it was that was a true story. Like, but not quite to the it wasn't quite to that extent. Like, it was exaggerated a little bit.
Do you want to just nutshell it for us, just for people who haven't heard it as much? Just, you know, I'm not asking you to do your act, but just the gag in general was.
Yeah. It's about how my boyfriend and I were talking about how you have a free pass in a relationship, and mine's like Idris Elba and, you know, like all these hot guys, and he was like, oh, I don't know who mine would be, and then he surprised me one day by saying, I know who my free pass would be. It'd be Emily, your friend. And
did you hear Emily? You went, oh yeah, Emily Blunt. She's pretty hot. I can get that. It's not bad.
Yeah. And that actually, it happened, but not to that extent. Like,
that's so funny. Oh gosh, don't we all wish we could have that kind of free pass? Oh, you know that free passing. There's this girl at the gym. You know that this girl at the gym. She's like 25 years younger than me, and she's smoking. Is it? You know that? No. Okay, that's a no. That's a hard no. Or are we just? It's a hard no. Okay, it's a hard no. All right. I'm glad we had our chat.
Good to know. Yeah.
Healthy chats. Good chats.
Yeah. Oh man.
How did he feel about that joke on stage? How does he feel about it now that we're not together?
Poor thing. He used to get a bit teased about it, but he knows what the stand-up world is like, so he took it with a grain of salt, which is great. And I think, you know, with those sort of things as well, it's like, how true are things anyway? So people wouldn't be like, that's definitely, you know, something that he'd say.
Yeah,
but yeah,
very funny.
He's good. He's still very supportive. So
I really want to know as well. Can you explain to me the story behind your Twitter profile pic?
oh, I just really like that photo because I'm legit laughing.
Yeah, but
I was
that's not that's not like you're not on a green screen. There's something
no,
that's caused that laugh. What's the story?
yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was during my headshots with Andy Crown, who is one of the like best actors as well as photographers I know. And the thing I love about having photos with Andy is because she just makes you feel so at ease. Like I'm quite often like Chandler, and there's that scene in Friends where Chandler and Monica get their photos taken, and every time the camera comes up to him, he's like, and can't smile. And I feel like that's a little bit me. So obviously she's probably said something silly and funny, and I've just fallen apart. So yeah.
So often you get, like you say, even though people can do it, the fake kind of smile and smile for the camera sort of thing.
Yeah.
Nothing's like the real snort, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can tell.
Do you find that you're a particularly political person? As we're recording this,
No.
This weekend coming up, there's some pretty big political news in New Zealand with whole Posey, whatever her name is, Parker, coming to the country and lots of things going on for you. So this will come out after that's happened. So we can't and won't comment on that necessarily. But are you someone who takes an interest in that sort of stuff? Are you someone who pays attention? Are those sorts of kind of social issues and politics something that are in your life like regularly?
I guess not really. I'm definitely taken interest in it. And I'm part of the arts world. Of course, like I support, all my brothers and sisters.
Everyone being everything anytime they want, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'm not a very political comedian. Like I can't understand a lot of it. So I would also like, it's A, not my style, and B, I really don't want to offend anyone either. If you kind of go into that area, you have to be able to talk about it, and I don't know enough about political stuff to be able to make a comment on that sort of thing.
Right. Even though you don't want to offend anyone, I've got a very important question to ask you. It seems from looking through your Twitter feed and stuff, you're a huge fan of Ruby Tui.
Fair? Oh, she's so cool. Yeah.
You also seem to have been, as she was Prime Minister, a pretty big fan of Jacinda Ardern. Fair?
Yeah, I do love Jacinda. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you don't want to offend anyone, but if you were put into a situation where you could only save one of them, you could only save one of them, which one of them are you going to save? Are you saving Ruby Tui from imminent demise or Jacinda Ardern? What's happened is your boats crashed and they're both caught underwater and they've both got a leg. They've both got like a bit of metal on their leg and they can't get out. And you've got enough breath to get one of them out from that situation. Who do you save and why? I don't mean to make you cry, by the way, but I just wanted to know.
Yeah. That's a really tough question. I feel like Ruby Tui is such a machine. She'd probably get herself out. But in saying that,
it's not the game we're playing. That's not the game we're playing. You can't make your own rules, Donna. That's not the game we're playing.
Okay. Probably Jacinda.
Oh, why? Has to be a reason. What's that?
She's been such a supporter of the arts, and she'd come and see our show Snort at the basement and stuff, and I've met her a few times and she's always remembered me, and I just think she's a queen, really. She's freaking cool, and I think she handled everything with grace.
Let me just write this down. Ruby Tui can go fuck herself. Right. That's what I heard. Is that what you said? That's what I heard. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, in a nutshell, I guess. Okay. Right. You're on your own, Ruby.
I'm actually scared. I don't want to you've seen how strong and fierce those women are. I do not want to get on the wrong side of any of them. So we'll do what we do in broadcasting and go, it's an honest held belief. It's just an opinion. There's nothing legally binding with this conversation we're having right now.
I did not kill Ruby Tui.
Hey, tell me about Night Eyes. What's Night Eyes and when are we seeing more of it?
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with Muck Putty, who are the animation company that have made Night Eyes, which Justine is also in as well. Night Eyes. So the year before, I did a voice on their show, Tumeki Space, as a princess. And honestly, doing the voice stuff for characters is one of my favorite things to do in the world. And they asked me to come back and do Night Eyes, which is a show about a hedgehog. I'm a skink, I think, from memory, and Angela Dravid's a butterfly, I think, and we're like paranormal investigators. It's a kids show. It's a cartoon. It's so much fun, honestly, and they are so funny. They write the funniest stuff.
We're gonna die. I found this shiny new axe and this half-eaten sandwich.
Oh, Vim, I thought you were setting up cameras outside.
I was, and then I wasn't. But yeah, I think we may have just broken into someone's house.
I remember years and years and years ago, they did a short cartoon for 48 Hours called Camp Fair, and I remember watching it then and being like, these guys are so funny.
Right.
And so, but it's been a real dream to work with them, TBH. Yeah.
When you were growing up, like when you were younger, what kind of arts, what kind of inspiration did you have in your house? Was there comedy in your house? Was there laughter in your house? Was there music in the house? Was there theater in your house? Like, what was it that you saw when you were a child that kind of started to lead you towards what you're doing now? Or is this way out of left field compared to maybe your upbringing, like doing stand up on stage and being funny?
It's an interesting question. Definitely lots of laughter in my house. And my mum is an artist, so there was always like artisticness going on. And my dad is very funny, very dad jokey sort of way.
Right.
And so apparently mum said, like when I was 3, I was like, I'm going to be an actor. I don't know where I got that from. There's no one in our family that's, into that sort of thing. So it's quite left field in that sense. But yeah, quite a creative family anyway. So, and surrounded by mum and dad's friends who were funny, and I don't know.
Do you remember coming across stand-up comedy for the first time? Like, do you remember going, like lots of comedians are like, they've heard it and they've gone, what the crap is this? What, like, do you remember experiencing that? Do you remember who it was, or do you remember where and how you heard it?
I've always been aware of stand-up comedy, but it never occurred to me that it would be something I would do for some reason. I don't know. The way I got into it was through Eli Mathewson, basically, through Snort, the improv group, because that's made up of so many stand-ups. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. And I feel like it's kind of been sort of underground for a while in New Zealand, like it's suddenly burst. I don't know. It feels like it's way more popular now than it ever was.
Why do you think that is?
It might be just because I've discovered it. I think everyone else has discovered it at the same time. But I don't know.
So what you're saying is it might be a case for you of, I've just bought a Corolla and now I see Corollas all around the road. You know how you do that when you buy the car?
Exactly.
All of a sudden you speed the car everywhere.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So doing improv comedy, right? Theatre sports, that kind of thing, improv comedy, improv shows, leads into stand-up comedy. Do you remember your first time on stage by yourself doing stand-up? How did it go? Tell us a story.
It was at Golden Dawn, RIP Golden Dawn, the best bar in Ponsonby for so long, run by Matthew Crawley, who you might know of. We did a stand-up night to fundraise for Melbourne for Snort. And I did my first set there. Eli helped me with it. I remember that very clearly. And it went okay, I think, from memory. I was very lucky. Most people start out at the Classic, they do their first set at Raw, but I chose to do it at a bar on Ponsonby Road in Auckland, weirdly. But yeah, that was kind of the hook. I was hooked in from there, I think.
And it went well, obviously, enough to get you to come back and do it again. And
it must have gone all right because I kept doing it.
And when did improv comedy start? Did you do that kind of through the school system and then keep on going, or when did you pick up on that?
So yeah, definitely did that at school, did theatre sports at school, like all the cool kids. And then went to Christchurch to do a show at the Court Theatre. And they have the Jesters there, obviously the longest running improv group in New Zealand. And they're very amazing and funny. And Kathleen Burns, who was in the show with me, who was one of the longest serving Jesters, I think, said I should come along to a workshop. And so I did that. I think I did a show with them. And I was like, this is so fun. We don't have anything like this in Auckland at the moment. And so she put me in touch with Eli Mathewson and at the moment or that moment. And a guy called Eddie Dever, and we kind of came up with Snort, which was based on a Upright Citizens Brigade format called Ask Cat, and it kind of went from there. Yeah.
What era was this? Because you say the reason I wonder about the at the moment sort of thing is I work for Theatre Sports Auckland. I performed with them for 5 years or so, and in the 90s, it was selling out the Maidment Theatre in Auckland every Sunday night, and you saw everyone on stage.
Cool.
I wasn't there in that era. I came along afterwards doing more corporate stuff. So when did that all kind of stop in Auckland from your observation? Like, what era are you talking about that all kind of disappeared?
This was 2013. It's our 10-year birthday this year. And I don't recall there being any improv happening at that time, apart from like the corporate stuff, like, Improv Bandits and that sort of thing, con artists doing their stuff. And it's kind of having a bit of a renaissance, I guess, which is, I think as well, because I don't know if you find this, I feel like people like think of improv as a bit uncool, People
don't understand it.
I agree.
Performing, and I think con artists, the group, I don't know con artists, I've never been associated with them, but I think that's what Theatre Sports Auckland turned into, because I think Theatre Sports Auckland, from memory, I was already gone, had to change the name because the word theatre sports was trademarked. I think that was the story behind it. But I remember doing a comedy festival, New Zealand International Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
I did like 3 with them where we did improv shows. We did a show one year called Exfolios, and Exfolios was 90 minutes of improv Shakespeare. And
oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was a herald. So there was, for people who don't know, there's kind of 3 storylines intertwining to get to the end where it's where they all connect. And I still remember the best show that I felt like we did, I don't know, might have been 5 or 7 or 9 shows, was dark and scary and ominous, and no laughs from the audience.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there was actually, but compared to a theatre sports game, no laughs from the audience. And it was the best one. And it kind of was an eye-opener for a lot of people that it doesn't necessarily, like, improv doesn't necessarily need to be, the world's worst step sort of thing. There's lots more you can do with it.
Exactly. The world's worst step. That's so funny.
As you were when you were a younger person, when you were doing theatre sports, when you were thinking about acting and stuff,
I'm
who were
still
the people?
Very young.
I know, younger. I think I said. Did I say younger? I mean, because you're in your early 20s now, so younger is 17, so that's fine.
Early 20s. That's right.
Yeah. Who are the people that you looked at, like on stage, on screen, that you looked up to? Like, who was on your poster on the wall, sort of thing? Who were the people that you're thinking, they're my heroes and idols?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Okay. I only asked the hard questions here, Donna.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I had like posters of like, George Clooney and like JTT on my wall and stuff. But in terms of looking up, I probably I was a huge fan of Wayne's World when I was younger.
Oh, nice.
And massive fan of Wayne's World. And like even as a kid, like Mr. Bean, watching Mr. Bean on, Sunday afternoon or whatever. But I don't know, probably more like,
The genius of Mr. Bean, people think it's just a bit of a geeky stupid thing, but the genius of Mr. Bean was that sold in every single region of the world because he doesn't fucking talk. And because he doesn't talk,
Exactly.
and all the comedy is through, it's all physical comedy, every
Yeah, man.
culture, every language, every part of the world knows who Mr. Bean is. It's one of the reasons all the Blackadder's, all the amazing things that Rowan Atkinson's done, Mr. Bean is what's going to be on his gravestone, for the world to know about
Right.
this guy. Unreal. And
Isn't that
and
cool?
what just unreal. Yeah, he's amazing. I love and to see him in interviews in real life being so kind of slightly solemn and sort of very thoughtful and very
Very English.
softly spoken, very English. And then you see him at the closing of the London Olympics playing Mr. Bean and he's just like, oh, it's all there still. It's all there. All the comedy, all the everything. It's he's amazing. What
It's
about now though?
amazing.
Now that you're doing this kind of stand-up world and you're doing the acting world and you're doing the all these sorts of things, who do you look around to now and think, man, I'm there? They really impress me. They're someone who I'd like to aspire to be, I don't know, with or like or next to or see or visit.
Yeah. I mean, Jim Carrey, obviously.
Right.
We've talked to him already. But probably like Kristen Wiig for a long time, I was pretty obsessed with, like wanted to be her. Or oh god, there's someone on the tip of my tongue and I can't think who it is. Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I'm in Veep
Really?
world watching Veep,
Okay.
yeah. And I watched all of Seinfeld from start to finish over lockdown, and I'm just obsessed with her. I think she's so funny. She's so great. Yeah. So she'd be one. I wouldn't be mad about that career. Or Lisa Kudrow. It's just popped into my brain. I love The Comeback. That TV show she's done as well. Closer to home, probably Justine. I think she's just the coolest. Love her career.
Is that because she's on the other side of the camera doing this? Is that why? Right.
No, she was just before. So sorry about that. If I just
That's
seem
all right.
distracted for 1 second.
It's also interesting to hear who you're talking about. You're talking about actors. You're talking about, funny actors, but you're talking about actors. Like
you're right.
to the most, not all of them. So it's always interesting to figure out the idea of who you aspire to be and who you are and how often they align. Because that's what you've said. You've said actor, and then you've highlighted actors, including even when you were younger with George Clooney on the wall. So what do you do? How does a Kiwi stand-up actor or actor stand-up, break it into the big world of acting and move down that path? What kind of opportunities are there in Aotearoa for this, or is it the kind of thing that if you want to do it, you got to end up, being offshore? You got to do a Rose Matafeo or Ursula Carlson or a Cal Wilson. Is that what really has to happen?
I think so, but also in that sense, you're a smaller fish in a bigger pond, as opposed to being I also love New Zealand. I don't want to have to leave to get work. I would travel for work, but I've been very lucky recently, I think, with doing, like, I did an episode on Mean Mums and Raised by Refugees and little bits and pieces. So I think it's also about creating your own work. Like, you got to make your own work. So which is partly why I sort of got into stand-up, I guess, is, to just work breeds work, etc. So it's tough, man. It's real tough. Like, I've missed out on a couple of big jobs this year, and it's just like, when will it kind of, you got to get used to being told no, to be quite frank.
And where you are in your career right now, do you have a 5-year plan? Do you have where you want to be in 5 or 10 or 15 years time? Or is it a fickle industry and you're ready to got to take almost every day? Is it like, if you didn't get to where you want to be in 10 years from now, what is the plan? Is there a plan B, or is it always just plan A is the only way to go?
It's funny. I've never really had a plan B. Like, I've done my hospo time, I've done my office time, but in lockdown, the first big lockdown we had as a country, I was like, I lost all my work, obviously. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And, you know, every now and then as well, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just get a real job. But I can't handle it anymore. But I had suddenly got into gardening and plants and stuff. And I ended up I've started a horticulture diploma, and it's free. Thank you, Jacinda. Lol. And it's just one of those industries.
So that's favoritism.
No.
That's like
No,
payback.
no.
It's like with the mafia. Like she scratched your back. Exactly. There you go. I got
owe her.
Clear, much clearer.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's one of those industries that they need people in, and so the training is free, which is amazing. And so I started doing that, and then I started doing it as a job after lockdown kind of finished. But then I ended up getting a job writing on storylining on Shortland Street, so that kind of got put to the back burner. But it's always kind of there if I want to do it, I guess.
Yeah, that's not. It's like a lot of people. I know a lot of people like who try to get into the acting scene. They've gone and got their teaching diploma as well, and then they do drama teaching. If that's the other thing, or they do English teaching or something else. That's the other
I've thought
thing.
about that too.
So whilst in Dunedin, have you been to botanical gardens? Is it something that you actually do as well? Like if you're into horticulture, is it something? Yeah, you totally should. It's amazing.
Yeah, I haven't been there this time. I have been there before, and love it. We're also staying near, I think, is there a Chinese garden or something down by the near Queen's Garden? Yeah. So Juzzy and I have said, we must go have a look.
Yeah, sounds good. Very cool. Big question for the day, always is, you've talked about what you want to be, what you wanted to be, what you're going to be. When did you actually know you were funny? Like, do you remember a moment in your life where you kind of went, oh, I can make people laugh, whether it's through stand-up or through acting or through being silly? When did that moment come for you?
I think I know. It was at acting school. I always wanted to be a serious actor. Like I always wanted to be a Judi Dench kind of actor, like Kate Blanchett. Judi Dench or Jim Carrey. Because there's a very big Venn diagram different.
There. Yeah. Oh,
very different.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, you interrupted me.
You're true. No. It's funny. You're making me examine my life, and I don't know how I feel about it. I always wanted to be like, I always wanted to win an Oscar, and do serious acting. And then I went to acting school, and they were like, but I kept getting like the funny roles, and I was like, I remember being like, these are way more fun. And also I can't cry on cue. So, I feel like that's probably pretty important if you're going to be a serious actor.
You can't win an Oscar without crying in the movie, surely. I mean, you've got to cry at some stage.
Exactly.
I think that's the rule of thumb. They go through the academy and they go, did they cry? No. Let's just take that name out. No. Although I thought this the other day about crying, with how CG works this day and age, you don't need to be able to cry anymore. We often look at people like Denzel Washington. They have the 2 tears coming down, and it's amazing. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just put a forlorn look on your face, and they can CG a tear, no problems at all. So maybe your moment's coming. Maybe it's still to come because you don't need to cry anymore. Maybe.
I feel like I had to cry for something, and they put like liquid tears in my eyes.
Right. Sniff pepper. I've heard that before.
What that was? Yeah.
Chunk of pepper up your nose. Do it.
Pinch yourself pull really hard.
Yeah, pull that nose hair out. That's not a bad one either.
My eyes water just thinking it.
Hey, Donna, if people want to know more about you, how to get a hold of you and who you are and where to connect with you, how do they do that?
022. No. I am so on.
That's so funny.
I'm on Twitter, as you said. I'm on Facebook. I should get it. Actually, while I'm here in Dunedin, I want David to help me set up TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, need to start getting into the online world, I think.
And that's a good place to go to find out about shows and stuff, especially Twitter. People will know what's happening and what's coming up with you there.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I very much enjoyed it. I've been very much looking forward to this chat for a long time, since last year, in fact. So thank you for finally finding some space in your diary for me. And I wish you all the best for this year.
You're welcome.
My only thing I ask is when you win the Oscar, that you give a shout out to us here in Dunedin and to this podcast to give it some more exposure. That's all.
You bet. It's the least I could do.
The least you could do. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you so much.